Hey Benders! Welcome to Which Avatar Element, the video series where I take the role of the Lion Turtles, examining characters from different franchises and deciding which avatar element fits them best. For this episode, I am joined by fellow YouTuber, The Negotiator.
Hey there Benders, today we'll be diving into the head of Ahsoka Tano, the former Jedi turned rebel. Without too much chit chat, let's get right into it.
Oh, and spoiler alert for all things Ahsoka Tano, that includes the Clone Wars and Rebels.
Fire represents life and energy, as it serves as a connection to the sun. General Iroh of the Fire Nation describes firebending as the unflinching will to accomplish tasks. It's through this will that the firebending style of fighting focuses on using barrages of fire to overwhelm enemies before dealing a fatal blow, or in short, the best defense was always a better offense.
When translated into the 7 chakras, the solar plexus chakra, situated in the navel area, is represented by the element of fire. It is focused on willpower and discipline, the ability to turn thoughts and desires to movement and action. The demon or challenge of this chakra is shame.
The ability to turn desires into actions connect with Ahsoka, especially during her early career in the Clone Wars, where she was quick to temper an action.
You're reckless, little one. You never would have made it as Obi-Wan's Padawan. But you might make it as mine.
However, shame is not connected to her in any way, as Ahsoka has never felt shame for who she was, but rather guilt for her own actions.
Ahsoka's primary fighting style is that of Form 4, Ataru, the aggression form. Ataru has a focus on the offensive, attacking with fast and powerful swings of the lightsaber, leaving much to be desired with regards to defense. This style matches up very well with firebending. Utilizing the Force for a stronger attack against an enemy is very akin to the firebending way of overwhelming an enemy, as well as the lack of defense attributed to both.
Overall, Ahsoka has connections with the fire element in some regards, more so in her fighting style than her personality traits, where she only aligns with its vigor rather than shame.
Air is the element of freedom, defined by its spirituality and dynamic versatility. The basis of airbending came from the path of least resistance, favoring an almost exclusive defense.
Air was the 4th chakra, located in the heart. It was defined by its wellspring of love, warmth, compassion, and joy, but it was blocked by grief and sorrow.
Ahsoka aligns with the positive aspects of the air chakra and loosely aligns with the negative aspects, love and grief, respectively. Ahsoka, like all Jedi, had unconditional love for her cohorts, as they were the only family she truly knew since she was a child. And when assisting other life forms in the galaxy, she shared that unconditional love. Plus, she lines up with the freedom of air, a freedom that decided her path was not shackled by the Jedi. Though one can presume she grieved for their deaths, it did not break her, nor was it ever a challenge for her.
With Aang, it was difficult for him to let go of the grief for his fellow air nomads, a grief that blocked a new love for Katara. For Ahsoka, she was able to let go of her grief in order to fight with the new rebellion and against the Empire.
In terms of combat-oriented similarities, Ahsoka did align with the aspects of the path of least resistance. Airbending was the most dynamic and most free of the bending arts. Like Jedi, airbenders often tried to outlast their opponents rather than impose their will. In some ways, Ahsoka's acrobatic fighting style replicates the teachings of airbending, as she was constantly flowing with the Force, like a leaf in the wind.
In an overall sense, the element of air as it relates to chakra and the combat does have some fierce similarities with Ahsoka's spirituality and technique. The only aspect that may not be a perfect match was her demon of sorrow.
Water is considered the element of change. It is connected to the moon and the ever-changing tides of the oceans and seas. Waterbenders use the flow of energy in battle, using their defense as an offense.
The second chakra, also known as the sacral chakra, is connected to the element of water. It's the center of feeling, emotion, pleasure, sensuality, intimacy, and connection. The demon of this chakra is guilt, a theme that is extremely present in Ahsoka's story arc. As an adult, Ahsoka was riddled with guilt with regards to her former master Anakin Skywalker. At first, it was merely the guilt that she may have been responsible for his death, but later, she felt responsible for not saving him from the dark side of the Force.
While guilt plays a large role for Ahsoka, intimacy and connection play roles as well. Ahsoka had an interest for Lux Bonturi, and her connection to other lifeforms was impressive, such as her ability to sense Plo Koon or the slaves of Zygeria, even her former master, within the depths of Darth Vader.
Ahsoka's fighting style has approximate affiliation with Water Tribe fighting styles, which focus more on defensive maneuvers than utilize the opponent's power against them. Her use of Form 5 Xian was a secondary form rather than a primary, but it did preach the aspects of turning one's defense into an offense. In terms of redirecting blaster fire at her adversaries, Ahsoka was a pro, though this form of swordplay did not translate to her straight-up bouts with other lightsaber wielders.
Overall, Ahsoka fits in well personality-wise with the element of water, and her fighting style has loose alignments with Waterbender's tendencies of defense as offense, especially as an adult.
Earth was the element of substance, classified by its strength and no BS attitude. The bedrock of earthbending was rooted around neutral Jing, the wisdom of knowing when to wait and when to strike.
Earth was the first and primary chakra, located in the base of the spine. It was specified by its courage, resourcefulness, and everlasting will to survive, but it was blocked by fear.
In a way, survival and fear relates to the concept of fight or flight, the instinctual concept of when to stand your ground and when to make an escape. For Ahsoka, she definitely prefers fight as opposed to flight. We need look no further than her fight with General Grievous, where she chose to face him head-on rather than escape with the Jedi younglings. And then again, when she faced Darth Vader, standing her ground against the Dark Lord instead of bolting. These actions do lend themselves to the headstrong and stubbornness of an earthbender with absolutely no traces of fear.
However, in a combative sense, Ahsoka's parallels with Earth are far less intense. As a fighter, she favored her dexterity rather than her rock-solid defense. Unlike someone like Toph, she does not throw up a rock wall between herself and her opponent, but instead leapt around them, undermining their flank.
So ultimately, while Ahsoka does align with the positive mental aspects of an earthbender, she lacks the negative effect of fear, and she does not share the qualities of a combative earthbender.
The final decision was talked at length between the negotiator and me, and it's one of the reasons we enjoy the dynamic between the elements and the theme of balance within Avatar. Not to knock my other series, Witch Hogwarts House. By the way, you should check it out, it's totally super fun. But the connections between the Hogwarts houses are nowhere near as deep as they are between the four elements.
When deciding, we went back and forth between all the elements, especially since we are judging on the scale of personality and fighting style, as they relate to each element's chakra and combat technique.
And with that, in terms of character, we feel Ahsoka aligns most intensely with the element of water. She connects not only with its positive aspects of compassion and connection, but also the negative aspects of guilt and regret.
In terms of combat, we feel Ahsoka aligns most with air. As a Padawan, she definitely relates more to fire, but as she matured, and as the creatives behind Star Wars Rebels have specified, she was far more measured.
Ahsoka has a fighting style that is similar to where we left her in terms of having the two blades, but she's definitely much more in control. She's less impulsive. It may be less flashy, but it's certainly more impactful.
So how do we decide between water and air? Which element is more closely related to Ahsoka Tano? Perhaps we should examine the other ends of the analysis. For water, how it relates to Ahsoka's combative showings, and for air, how it relates to Ahsoka's chakra.
And with that, we come back to fire, and how it relates to Ahsoka's fighting style. While it is true she is more measured and less flashy as an adult, it does not mean her flame burned out. It's just that she uses her fire more like a General Iroh than Princess Azula. With air, it does not truly and completely epitomize her. She was more of a firebender who tempered herself with air.
That all said, the deliberation between air being her primary alignment as a combative bender opens the gate, pun not intended, for waterbending, which we feel is a more balanced and complete representation of what Ahsoka Tano is, compassionate in her connections and riddled with guilt. And though combatively she is not a perfect one-to-one, with fire and air being closer alignments, waterbending, in a way, strikes a balance between both, a pairing between offense and defense.
So after that convoluted explanation, essentially what we are trying to say is that our final decision after great deliberation is that Ahsoka Tano would most likely be a waterbender.
Of course, this is all our opinion based on the lore of Avatar in Star Wars.
Do you agree that Ahsoka Tano would be a waterbender, or do you think that the Lion Turtles would choose a different element for her? Let us know in the comments below, especially for this one, because there are so many ways this can go.
Peace, love, and remember, be water, my friends.
May the Force be with you, always.
Obi-Wan was built during a time of peace, Ahsoka was molded during a time of war, and Anakin was shaped by a bit of both. Today, we will be diving into the head of Azula, the insane firebender from Avatar, The Last Airbender. Again, Mugen generally had one thought process when fighting: attack.